Keita Williams, and I'm your favorite success bully. I'm the founder and chief strategist of Success Bully, which is a accountability practice. We put the ACT in action. So I work with individuals, groups, and organizations to supercharge their goals through accountability. One thing that I always share with my clients is the need to step out of their comfort zone. And so when I was approached by my producer to try something new, I had to jump at the opportunity. And that was live podcasting and moderating an event. It was totally uncharted territory for me, and I'm so excited to share it with you. So we're stepping outside of the most electrifying 5 minutes in podcasting to share this series called The Fearless Factor. Just to kind of give you a little background, it was a beautiful night in Seattle, and we were in a room full of powerhouse women that were brought together by Upward, which is a global network for executive women. They come together to discuss the challenges they face in the workplace, as well as to identify creative solutions to overcome them. So I'm really excited to participate in this event. My special guests include Amy Nelson, who is the co-founder and CEO of the Riveter. The Riveter is a new women's co-working space in Seattle and is soon to roll out to 20 different locations nationwide. Tina Nole is a founder and executive producer of Larj Media. She's my personal producer, and I'm so proud of her. And she runs the most premier podcast production house that develops content for celebrities, thought leaders, and brands alike. So in this episode, we're focusing on faking it till you make it. You and I have experienced those situations, those days, those spaces, those growth opportunities where we feel less than adequate, where we feel not smart enough, where we feel not experienced enough, where we feel too young to be there. But today, Tina and Amy are going to share two very different perspectives on this. There are so many notable quotables. I can't wait to share them with you. So, Amy, we're going to start with you. We often hear about the imposter syndrome. Tell us how this feeling of not belonging, how it impacted your career. Did you feel that it held you back in some ways, or was it a driving factor?
So, I got this from my father. In addition to lawyering, I've always done a lot of political fundraising. And I had some great mentors in learning how to do that. But I remember calling my dad once. I was like 26 or 27, and I was going to a big political fundraiser where everybody had millions more dollars than my no millions. And I didn't necessarily feel like I belonged. And I said to my dad on the phone, I was like, these people, like, they're just going to be like, who is she? And my dad just said, fake it till you'll make it. They don't know. Oh. And so I think that's, kind of if you don't feel like you have all of the confidence in the world, if you just tell yourself that you belong, it tends to work.
Awesome.
I have to add to that. Yes. My father said, head up, shoulders back.
Oh, hello.
Head up, shoulders back.
So head up, shoulders back.
In those moments of feeling intimidated or scared or whatever, head up, shoulders back always was my thing. And
love it.
And my dad brought me that too, military guy. So, thanks, Dad. I love that.
I wish I could live tweet right now, but I'm kind of multitasking. So, because these are great notable quotables. That's normally I would be rapid fingers.
I have to pause though and say my mother, who's in the back there. My mother also, just to give her credit, my mother also said, which I think is profoundly impactful, and now I'm having my third daughter and think about this all the time. My mother always said, you can just do anything. You're capable.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? And I don't know why that was harder for me to believe than, okay, I can fake it, but it was.
For me, it was a lot of both. When I got to CBS News, I really felt it in a big way. And the story I used to tell is I came from Seattle and I was with Dave Ross, and he really is one of the best talk show hosts in the country. He's an amazing journalist. He is very intelligent. He's kind. He's very well respected. And I was very well respected because I was producing his show. So it's kind of a big deal out here. And I went to New York, and I was a nobody knowing no one. And I walked in the door at CBS like, I do not belong here. I do not belong. I'm not smart enough. I'm not schooled enough. I'm not experienced enough. And I used to say that I walked in wearing like this weirdo monster suit. that like the real Tina was like inside there, and the monster lady was like, "Hello, everybody. Let me prove myself some more and tell you more about me and like how smart I am and how great I am." And I couldn't figure it out. Like every day I'd go in, I was like, "Don't wear the monster suit. Don't wear the monster suit. Like be you." And it was really, really weird and really, really hard. Eventually, I think I sloughed the monster suit, but I certainly did feel it for a very, very long time. Even the night at CBS, what happens is everybody's clawing for these positions of producing long-form coverage. So when something big happens, every day my job was to edit news or take in interviews and give it to people that were smarter than me. And you're constantly trying to prove yourself to get to a place where you produce long-form coverage. So when something big happens, you're the go-to. Right. So I got to produce the Pennsylvania primary long-form coverage, which is a giant deal. So even then, I'm like, oh my God. And I killed it. I nailed it. Still, at the end of that night, the program director came to me and said, "We're going to submit this to awards. This is a huge deal. Like, you nailed it. Wow." I was sweating and like, oh, great. And I went home and I was like, I don't know what she was smoking, because she did not. She was wrong.
What was that critical turning point for you where you felt like you weren't faking it and you were like owning the space, where you like stepped into it and it was yours to own? At what point did you feel like you had that?
You know, I'll tell you, I think that happens all the time. So sometimes I still feel like I have the monster suit on and I'm not right and I'm not fitting. And sometimes I feel like I really nail it. I was in a client meeting just recently where it was all men at the table and they were like all big and strong. It was a brewery and they were super tough guys, and I was freaking killing it. The whole time I walked out and I was like, I nailed that.
Like, crushed it.
Anyone? I mean, freaking nailed it. So it felt really good. And that was a rare moment. That doesn't happen all the time. But so sometimes it, comes and goes. I think that imposter syndrome will always be there a little bit, but occasionally.
I do want to hear this from Amy.
Yeah, I think eventually, really and truly, I just got too tired to spend the energy of faking it in a way, and then decided to just be open about what I don't know and still jump.
Okay.
And it works, right? Like, I've never been an entrepreneur. Now
Here we go. Boom.
Because you just decided to do it. I mean, it's a lot harder than that, but again, it's making the decision to do it. And I really just I can't cuss, can I? Or can
I? We curse on the Success Bully podcast.
Okay.
Much to my mother's chagrin.
Okay. I ran out of fucks to give. I had to jump.
The first F-bomb of the night, people, and it wasn't me.
Yeah. So, I mean, the imposter syndrome could hold you back your whole life. Yes. Even if you're outwardly incredibly successful.
Yes.
So recognizing that is really important.
I am within my practice. I tell clients, like, there's no one outside with picket signs saying you can't do it. There isn't like a coalition of people telling you can't have something or you can't be something. It's usually in your head, and you are your biggest advocate and sometimes your biggest obstacle. So. Yeah.
And there's a lot of freedom too to taking everything someone tells you can't do and then doing it loudly, right? I mean, there's motivation in that, I think, for women entrepreneurs, right? We are in a different dynamic than men are when you look at the numbers. Like, women get less than 7% of venture capital funding. That means it's insane when you look at that number. It doesn't make any sense. And we heard from a lot of people that we couldn't raise money for this idea to build something for women, that when I found out I was pregnant with my third child, I'd better not tell anybody, because people would see me as a vessel and wouldn't give me $1, to which I said, if they have a problem with me being pregnant, I don't want to give them this opportunity, right? And that's, people are going to tell you it won't work, but it will if you do it. So maybe they don't want us to try.
When you and I feel like imposters, when we feel unworthy, not ready, or incapable of the tasks ahead of us, these are all made-up scenarios that we put on ourselves. So we owe it to ourselves to fake it until we feel confident enough to be in those spaces. Even fake confidence will carry you along. I'd like to give a special thanks to our guests, and you can get more information on Upward at upwardwomen.org. You can see more on The Riveter by visiting theriveter.co. And as always, we're produced with love by Larj Media, which is larjmedia.com. Feel free to keep up with my antics and key learnings on Twitter and Instagram @SuccessBully. You can follow along on successbully.com. My client roster is quickly filling up, so your first accountability challenge is to reach out sooner than later to book your one-on-one or group butt kicking with friends and family with me. Again, I'm Keita Williams, your favorite Success Bully.